Good afternoon, restaurant folks and restaurant fans. This is Steve Barnes, the Times Union, coming to you with yet another edition of talking about restaurants in a time of COVID-19 and the coronavirus. New York State has 865,000 restaurants, give or take 1,000, according to the New York State Restaurant Association. And those businesses from mid-March through mid-May lost an estimated $5.5 billion in revenue. They were restricted to takeout or delivery. Many chose not to do that at all. And then suddenly, almost 2 weeks ago, with 1 day's notice, Governor Cuomo suddenly announced that outdoor dining was permissible. So restaurants had to scramble to get things open the next day. And that did not happen this time for indoor dining. As projected for a month now, June 17th, that's tomorrow, is the day that indoor dining is allowed to begin in restaurants in New York State that are opening in phase 3. That includes the capital region. Here to talk about what that experience has been like and what they're anticipating for it are two operations directors for BMT Hospitality, which has 9 restaurants in Albany and Troy. Our guests are John Dollard and Frank DeLuca. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Steve.
So you got, BMT has 9 restaurants. Which ones are opening for indoor dining tomorrow?
So tomorrow, the 2 Juniors locations will be open with full menus. We are going to have a little bit restriction on the hours. We're going 11 to 9 and then probably 11 to 10 on Friday and Saturday. And then Friday, the Point will be open. Cocina will be open Friday through Sunday. Albany Ale and Oyster will be open again on Friday. We're doing some renovations at Spinners, so they're not going to be opening up right away. But that's kind of where we stand right now.
And which of those we're doing patio dining? Because I certainly drove by, and Juniors in the Point had plenty of people. You've got a great expanse along the upper Madison Avenue there. Which of those for almost about 10, 12 days have been doing patio dining?
So both Juniors, Juniors Albany and Juniors North Greenbush have been doing patio dining. We've been lucky enough when the Point isn't using their patio, that Juniors has been using the Point patio as overflow. So we get an extra 10, 12 tables of dining as we have a kind of a limited space for our own patio.
If you would go over the state regulations with regards to restrictions. The most obvious one for indoor dining is 50% or less capacity and tables 6 feet apart. What are some of the other things people can expect if they choose to come into a dining room starting tomorrow?
So the one big one is, obviously customers need to arrive wearing a mask. So if, again, we deal with weights, we use a system called No Wait, which is an online wait list, if you will. And, the one thing that we've been kind of struggling with is making sure that all guests have some kind of face covering. And again, if they're coming in from the patio to use the restroom, they have a face covering. But some of those things have been a little bit of a struggle in the initial stages here.
So tell me about that. I mean, you're in the hospitality business, which being hospitable, and yet there is could be tension between somebody, because masks, as you know as well as I do, have become for some a political issue. It becomes some sort of freedom thing, similar to the fights 50 years ago about seatbelts. So are you willing?
Very divisive.
Yeah. Are you willing to prevent somebody from coming in if they don't have a mask on?
Yes, yeah. Unfortunately, we have to kind of take the high ground on that one and deny service to someone who isn't abiding by those rules.
The masks have proved to help curtail the spread, and we have to protect all of our guests. It's not just our staff. If someone doesn't want to wear a mask, we can't put anyone else at any kind of risk or put them in any kind of jeopardy. They're not going to be able to dine with us.
Sure. And I mean, what we've seen from around the country is states that are reopening. Texas just posted the third straight day of 1,000 new cases. And no doubt some of those were as a result of, the party atmosphere of restaurants, particularly with large, I mean, you probably saw that footage from bars and patios at the Lake of the Ozarks, over Memorial Day weekend. So how many employees total, during the delivery only period, how many employees were on the payroll and how many do you have back on the payroll starting tomorrow?
So between the two juniors locations did healthy takeout business during all of this. Spinners and The Point, Cocina, and the Cafe Madison also did fairly solid numbers with catering. So with all of that going on, I would say we had close to 55, 60 people working still during all of this. And one of the things I meant to mention earlier too is Cafe Madison will be opening Friday through Saturday. This will be opening Friday and then be open daily going forward.
Okay. And so how many more are coming back, more employees are coming back now that you're being able to open for inside?
I would say with the advent of the 50% inside, and again, we've been kind of ramping up with the patios, bringing staff back, everybody, the servers, the front of the house staff, they're kind of going by the guideline of, 3 shifts per week. They can still collect unemployment if they don't exceed a certain number of hours or a certain number of, monetary dollars made per week. So they're all kind of going by that guideline. We've managed to bring back at both juniors quite a lot of the staff. The back of the house was there pretty consistently, just to be able to handle the takeout. Management has all stayed on, obviously working in some capacity or another. But now that, we've had the patios open for the past 10 days or 12 days, as you said, with the 50%, we'll be bringing everybody back. It's almost business as usual for us. Granted, we lost some of the support staff, some of the part-timers that were with us before COVID-19. Some of them are not returning. So we are kind of hiring. We're seeking, obviously, talented people to join the company at all levels, whether it's support staff, servers, front of house staff, back of house staff. And that's going to be a challenge too, is finding people to fill in the gaps once we've identified where they are.
Yeah, we've had a large number of calls about opening up the cafe in Loudonville. And right now we simply don't have the staff to deliver the type of experience our guests expect when they visit that location. So unfortunately, until we can kind of ramp up some hiring and then go through the training process and everything else, it is a challenge, and we're not able to open all the locations right now.
Speaking of training, what sort of additional training have you had to do? Because this is really a whole new world besides just the obvious thing of the masks. Did you go to all paper menus? Are you using only disposables, or will you have plates? What are some of those things that have changed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously, like we had talked about a little bit before, to go have business had already ramped up so much for us, especially at the juniors locations. So again, we were printing to-go menus. We were serving to-go beverages in plastic. We had gone to all disposable. So those systems were kind of already in place as we opened to the public. Yeah, we're using all disposable. Any plates, or we use aluminum pans at the juniors concepts. We have the deli sheets, obviously, that separate the pan from any of the food. But it's plastic cups, it's knives, forks, all the cutlery is plastic.
And they're all individually wrapped.
Yep.
Individually portioned condiments. One of the things that we've decided to do is we're not going to clear your table until you get up to leave, just to kind of minimize as much contact as possible. Obviously, you want more food, you want more drink, no problem. But once you get up to leave, that's when we'll clear the table, sanitize all the chairs, and then we'll get the next group seated.
With nine locations across multiple concepts, that's a lot of business lost in 3 months. Have you put a figure on it? I've been talking to people today, and it's anywhere between the figures I've heard, 500,000 to 1.8 million in lost revenue over 3 months. Has BMT put a number on it?
Possibly privately, but not publicly. Again, some of our concepts, again, with the catering, we picked up, it helped offset that number tremendously. We were feeding, and Frank, you probably have some better numbers on this. At one point it was, over 1,000 people a day, something like that, 4 meals, breakfast, lunch, 2 dinner periods, to multiple locations. We were really, that was kind of the silver lining in all this. And again, like you said, like the concepts like Juniors, which could so easily transition to a 100% to go. Really, again, we lost a ton of revenue, but managed to come out pretty well, all things considered.
And what about restocking? One of the things, particularly places that had more limited menus, Juniors, as you suggest, it's just more seats. It's still going to do its thing, but some of the other places, certainly Cafe Madison, and then there's a different expectation. Or if they hadn't been doing takeout, you need to restock. I've been hearing figures of anywhere from $20,000 to $80,000 just to begin doing in-house service again. Do you know what that's going to cost?
I mean, I would suggest that those numbers are probably pretty reasonable. Yeah, full food order, beverage, reordering all of your spirits. Again, most of that stuff was, wine, spirits, they can stay. They're shelf stable, those kind of things. But yeah, that initial food order is going to be tremendous to get, even a small restaurant like Cafe Madison back up and running.
Not to mention all the disposables. You're not reusing knives and forks. You're not reusing plates and glasses. We really had to take the hit on ramping up the cost of to-go boxes and disposable serviceware.
Yeah, this is one of the additional casualties of the pandemic has been the resurgence of plastic. I mean, people were really going full bore on, compostables and recyclables and that sort of thing with everything takeout, and even plastic bags were being banned. And well, we just put that off for a year while plastics has certainly resurged. What would you say are you hearing from your customers about their willingness to dine in? Everybody, it seems, is cool with a patio. I'm outdoors, there's air moving around, I'm 6 feet away, no problem. But there is that big thing about going back indoors. I did a post just yesterday on my table hopping blog that in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, got 700 responses, and 56% said they didn't expect to dine in before the end of the year or before there was a safe and proven vaccine. So, right there, it's more than half of people who say they really don't want to go back into a restaurant until the end of the year at least. So what are your customers telling you about the willingness for a dining room as opposed to any of your great outdoor spaces?
Well, we are getting a bit of that, some hesitancy, but because we have the luxury of having so much outdoor seating, what we're doing now is when we reopen the indoor parts of the restaurants, we're going to do it at probably less than 50% capacity. The tables will probably be 7 or 8 feet apart. So we want people to feel as comfortable as possible, and we're not packing people in. We're going to be below that 50% capacity because all of our outdoor seating affords us the luxury to do that.
All right, guys, last couple of questions, because I know you've got a bunch of restaurants to reopen tomorrow. When you finally have a day off after relaunching this, where are you going to go that's not a BMT property to sit in a dining room?
Ooh, one of Frank and I's favorite Friday night haunts is definitely DP's. I would think, if we can both get get away for a couple hours on a Friday night, we'd probably shoot down there for a glass of wine and maybe a steak. It's also happens to be both of our wives like to go there as well. So if we're not together, we might wind up taking our wives out there.
Well, I can tell you that they ran their dishwasher continuously for 12 hours yesterday to go through more than 1,000 pieces of glassware in 25 different shapes. So
Yeah.
they're getting ready tomorrow. They had the carpet steam cleaned, and so
I
that
saw
they are ready to and they're also, you know, talking about because I know Frank. That's where I often see Frank at the bar, usually on Saturdays. You know, they're figuring out how many people they can put at that bar. All right, so there's John. What about you, Frank? You can't pick DP or Jonas.
Sorry, Frank.
No, that's okay. I would probably take a run up the Wolf Road and check out Toro.
Well, starting tomorrow, they're doing lunch and dinner. They've got room for 160 inside. Imagine that.
Yeah.
Massive.
And probably 70 on the patio.
Yeah.
All right. Very good, guys. I appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow with all the places you are going to reopen, and then as you gradually bring everything back to as full capacity as you can. We've been speaking to Frank DeLuca and John Dollard of BMT Hospitality, which has 9 restaurants, a number of which are reopening tomorrow for indoor dining, and many of them have already been doing patio seating. Have a good afternoon, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Steve. Thank you.
And if you folks that are watching want to check online on timesunion.com later this afternoon, I will also link to it from Table Hopping. I've got a story talking to a variety of other restaurant owners about what they've been going through, and the difficulties, the challenges, the excitement, and also the trepidation about who's going to be willing to dine in, and quite frankly, what it's cost them. This was catastrophic financially for restaurants, and it's not all sunny and happy and optimistic starting tomorrow too, because at 50% capacity, that would seem to, and shortened hours, that would seem to dictate less than 50% of revenue after many of them have had nothing or minimal compared to what they're accustomed to making in a strong spring season. So check that out on timesunion.com. If I can get my fingers going and typing rapidly enough and goad my editor along, we should be able to have that online by 3 p.m. or so. Until next week, 1 to 1:30 p.m. on Times Union Facebook Live and YouTube and on Twitter, I'm Steve Barnes from the Times Union. Eat well and be well. Thank you.